with the talk on Platform Sutra, chapter of Prajna. So last time, almost a month, we talk about this different views, and the one that we talked last is the one on the view of clinging to one's own view. That is to say, if you have some already have some preconception of certain things, that you hold on to your own view, and it is not so easy to change. And that is, the talk about this view of clinging to one's own view. And there is a story in the Buddhist history that we like to share with you. During the Song dynasty, there is a prime minister. His name is Zhang, and he was a Confucian scholar. He was ferociously opposed to Buddhism. However, his wife was a very devoted Buddhist. So one night, his wife saw him walking back and forth in his study, unable to sleep. Seems like he is in much trouble. She asked him what was bothering him and why he couldn't go to bed so late at night. The prime minister replied, "It's people like you, foolish and ignorant, that trouble me. You praise the Buddha every day, and I'm trying to come up with a way to make people in the world stop believing in Buddhism and worshiping Buddha." The prime minister continued to say that, "I want to write a book refuting the existence of Buddha, but I'm not sure where to begin and how to write it." What his wife replied was that, "You should write a book affirming the existence of Buddha. If there's no Buddha, then what are you going to oppose? If your book argues against the existence of the Buddha, it implies that there is a Buddha. Therefore, it would be better for you to carefully study Buddhist scriptures and gain a clear understanding of what they truly teach. Then when you write, your argument will be more relevant and meaningful." That's what his wife said. After hearing his wife's words, the prime minister found them reasonable. And from that point on, he studied the Tripitaka, reading from cover to cover. Afterward, he stopped writing the book At that moment, he truly found there was no Buddha in his mind to oppose. He transformed into a devout and renowned lay Buddhist. So that is the story. The question here is that how should you deal with relatives and friends like this? If someone doesn't believe in Buddhism, you can challenge them to try and refute Buddhism to prevent many people from being deceived or becoming foolish by not turning to Buddhism, and to make everyone as intelligent as they are. If they respond, then by telling them to read 2 books, well, there are 2 books of our teacher, Mr. Sung Yen. One is Orthodox Buddhism. And then another book is this one, that the Platform Sutra of the 6th Patriarch, or Diamond Sutra. Of course, it is even better to invite them to listen to the talk, Platform Sutra of the 6th Patriarch. The view of clinging to one's own view is very, very firm. Those who have their own thoughts, a strong sense of self-centeredness, or a high opinion of themselves tend to possess this view to a certain degree. Now, if I were to claim that the theories of Buddhism are the best, and that there is nothing in the world better than Buddhism, would this viewpoint be considered a view of clinging to one's own views? You might have that questions, right? For the people who do not view it as clinging to one's own views, their faith is strong, and they possess a firm belief in Buddhism. They deserve praise and encouragement. However, for those who recognize it as clinging to one's own view, they have already understood a little about Buddhism. The teaching of Buddhism forbid attachments and the separation of the internal and external. This you already heard, a couple of times when we talk about the Platform Sutra. Believing that this is Buddhism and that is non-Buddhist path, with the non-Buddhist path leading to hell, and only Buddhism leading to heaven, then this is not the Buddhist perspective. Therefore, if we believe that Buddhism is the best, there's a problem there. However, as beginners in Buddhism, if we don't believe that Buddhism is the best, we become purposeless wanderers without any meaningful purpose. What else is better than Buddhism? Could be that Christianity is good too. Catholicism is excellent. Islam could be also good. even other school is not bad, because all religions are the same. Then they will have this kind of theories. So the fundamental notion that Buddhism is the best cannot be shaken. However, if we further cling to the theory of Buddhism being the best and regard it as our own opinion, it still falls under the view of clinging to one's own views. You must let go of this perspective to truly see your own wisdom. I hope you understand this message here. The theories of Buddhism are like a ferry boat, transporting us from this shore to the other shore, from the shore of birth, death, and afflictions to the shore of liberation from birth, death, and affliction. It is a useful means of transportation. However, if a person boards this ferry boat but never disembarks, never get off, even when they reach the other shore, and instead the boat turns back, they remain on board, unable to get off. The question is, have they truly crossed over? Of course, the answer is no. Buddhism is the best, and we should practice it, but ultimately, we must transcend it. Otherwise, we cannot liberate. We cannot free ourselves from suffering. If you hold on tightly to Buddhism as the best, it's as if you have crossed the river, but refuse to get off from the boat, remaining in the sea of suffering. Therefore, clinging tightly to Buddhism as the best is what? It is the view of clinging to one's own views. Now, next will be the view of being attached to precepts, or the view of clinging to precepts. It refers to a perspective where one becomes overly attached to and rigidly adheres to precepts, considering them as the goal rather than a means to spiritual progress. The fifth kind of view in the broad sense is the view of clinging to precepts. This is a belief or perspective found in folk religion or certain non-Buddhist teachings. Give an example. One religion believes that the more non-religion people they killed, the more assurance and quicker ascension to heaven they will attain. And in the time of the Buddha, this view was there. Now, a teacher encouraging disciple to kill, they believe that killing 1,000 people would guarantee their ascension to heaven. That's what happened. There are also methods that involve indulging in sexual misconduct to attain liberation. Some propose the practice of immersing oneself in water multiple times a day as a condition for spiritual progress or attaining heaven. So we have a few examples already. Killing people so that you could go to heaven quicker. And having sexual misconduct lead you to liberation. And immersing yourself in water a couple times, multiple times a day, to cleanse your spiritual and attaining heaven. All these theories may sound persuasive, but they are distorted views that do not lead to true liberation. Now, this kind of wrong view is known as the view of clinging to precepts. It imposes strict rules and insists that one must adhere to them, considering any deviation a violation of precepts. Following these rules is seen as upholding precepts, but this is a distorted view of non-Buddhist teaching and not a genuine path to liberation. Say, for example, some non-Buddhist practices or beliefs have peculiar precepts that reflect the characteristics of their faith. For example, in the legend of a certain sect, they supposedly worship while being completely naked. But in the modern time, this is not practiced anymore. Such creed or precept can be considered as wrong views. Well, in ancient India, during the time of the Buddha, there was a sect called the Naked Ascetics, who believed that true practice could only be done while being completely naked. They consider wearing clothes as a manifestation of the dualistic thinking of good and evil. Does it mean that we're not wearing clothes and they are completely naked? Well, they would go outside without wearing clothes, but they have paint on their bodies with some color. However, in modern day India, you won't see them on the street, but in certain areas of India, you still see them. That this is their practice. In a book that introduced this sect of Hinduism and mentioned that during the major worship ceremonies, both men and women would be completely naked. Men would stand on one side and women on the other side. They believed that they could only enter the temple and face their deity when they were completely naked. They claim that when a person is born, they are originally naked, and later wearing clothes represent the division of men and women and the differentiation between good and evil. They consider clothes as a form of disguise when facing their God. Why would they need to pretend? They believe that they should present themselves as they naturally are. They insisted on being completely naked to truly participate in the rituals of worship. And this is an example of the view of clinging to precepts. So far, okay? So let's discuss this evil view at a deeper level. Any view that holds on to self-nature is considered as an evil view. There are three types of self-nature view. The first type believes in the existence of the highest, ultimate, and greatest God, suggesting that our true nature comes from this supreme being. So you return to God. You return to the supreme being. I'm talking about this evil view. The second type does not believe in the existence of a supreme God, but insists on existence of a fundamental entity or essence. You could say it's called principle or substance. Now, this is the second type. According to this view, all the differences and manifestation of phenomena, including the cycle of birth and death and the afflictions, are still based on a fundamental principle or nature. This is considered a self-nature view. Now, this is the second type. The third type arises from the experiences attained through meditation and contemplation. It is not concerned with the physical existence, such as practicing Qigong, yoga, or other bodily exercise, but focuses on mental and spiritual experiences. For example, one may feel a sense of liberation or freedom, where a shallow level of liberation means not being attached to one's own body. A deeper level means not being attached to the environment. An even deeper level means not perceiving any fixed state, not any fixed state. Those who have reached this level of liberation strongly cling to their sense of liberation and consider themselves liberated beings who are not attached to the body, the environment, or any fixed state. They perceive themselves as beings who are completely free and unrestrained. Well, such individuals are extremely rare. It is quite commendable for ordinary people to achieve such a level. However, the problem is that they still cling to the state of liberation, the state of being free. They have not truly achieved liberation. They are simply not attached to any fixed state. While not being attached to the body, the environment, or any fixed state, they are attached to experience of liberation, the feeling of being free. So they are attached to that. Their attachment to this sense of freedom is strong and unyielding. People like this tend to be arrogant and prideful, even claiming themselves to be the reincarnation of the Buddha, a noble saint, or a certain bodhisattva, or saying that they were a great arhat or bodhisattva in their past lives. They possess unwavering self-confidence and firm conviction. However, this self-confidence itself is a form of attachment and is called self-nature view. Self-nature can refer to the nature of liberation, freedom, or wisdom. Any attachment to this nature is considered an evil view. The Buddha's teaching aimed to eliminate these three types of self-nature views. The first type is clearly seen in the view of non-Buddhist schools. The second type is also not in accordance with the teaching of Buddhism. The third type, which involves self-nature view, is more challenging to discern whether someone is following a non-Buddhist path. Many people mistake these individuals for Buddhas or Bodhisattvas. And even these individuals themselves claim to be so. It is important to remember that anyone holding on to this self-nature view is considered to have an evil view. Okay, understand? Now, continue on the text that is said, due to the profundity of their false view and deeply rooted afflictions. Why do so many people fail to attain enlightenment after hearing the Dharma? There are two reasons. The obstructions of evil views and the deep rootedness of afflictions, making it impossible to have an immediate realization. So we have been talking about this evil view. Now we could talk about afflictions. Synonym and meanings of afflictions. In the Buddhist scripture and treatises, there are various names for afflictions. Sometimes we also use vexations. They are referring to as heat, as causing, as entangled, binding, staining, defilement, and all these are commonly known as vexations or afflictions. Now in Chinese, affliction or vexations is called 烦恼. Fan actually means annoyance. And this kind of annoyance represents fire, and now represent, the feeling of the mind. So when there is a fire in the mind, and it's called heat, which means afflictions. The external manifestation of afflictions include desire and aversion. Desire is associated with craving or burning desire, while aversion is associated with anger or fiery rage. Both are related to heat. It's quite easy to understand. Now, when we are angry, if we come to the feeling or the sensation of the body, what do we feel? Angry, you feel your body heat up. You feel fire within. It could be in your lung, somewhere here, in the chest here. So you feel it, or some people you will feel it all over the head. So it's just the heat right there. So heat, it is called heat, and which means vexation or afflictions. The external manifestation of afflictions includes desire and aversion. Desire is associated with craving or burning desire, while aversion is associated with anger or fiery rage. Both are related to heat. Another one is called causing. Refers to the power that causes oneself or others to generate various negative states or afflictions. This causing indicates a force arising from the mind that results in detrimental or afflictive consequences for oneself and others. Therefore, affliction represents our action, representing the king of our mind engaging in various actions, be they good or evil. All these actions are called causing, primarily referring to the creation of negative karma. And we have another word called entangle. When the mind is entangled, tied, there are likely problems within the mind. Some people experience speech impediment, known as tongue tie. tongue-tied, indicating that when the mind is not that tight together, it becomes obstructed and communication is not fluent. When we experience internal conflicts, contradictions, unfulfilled desire, or the desire for more, the various paths leading to the path of enlightenment become blocked. This state is referred to as entangled or tie up like a tight knot. Now, talking about this, here, actually, we just mentioned a few terms of this heat, about this causing, this entangle, this binding, this stain and defilement. Well, actually, this here, or with these terms here, we could see to ourselves, which is for the practice, we usually mention that use our body as a tool for our practice. And the practice concerning talking about relaxations, we're talking about the exercise, we talk about the breath, and then we talk about the mind. So in this way here, this talk here actually is referring to how do you observe your thinking? What is it that you have when you have certain thoughts? So we observe our body, we relax our body, we observe our breath, we regulate our breath. Now it's time, or here in here, that we observe our mind. We see what's going on with ourselves. In order to practice, then through this observation, we understand ourselves more. We get to know ourselves. And from the body's feelings, say, we talk about this heat, and then we also feel like the body is very heavy. And with better meditation, you feel your body is very light. So all these things, thinking, what is it that is with our emotion? We could come to certain understanding because we observe them. What is it that we're thinking of? Why is it the people just say a few words? You feel hurt. Where is it that hurt you? Or sometimes physically and then verbally that you feel you are hurt. All these things here could be a lesson for us to understand more about ourselves. Only when we are able to reflect on ourselves and see ourselves very clearly, what's going on with myself? What is it? Although the teaching is telling us it's impermanent, it's no self. I have the self all the time. So through this, that we really get to know more and more about ourselves. And then we are able to somehow adjust ourselves. That is a practice. And all of these things that we have vexations, we have afflictions within ourselves. What do you feel with our body when we have this? And we are too excited. Sometimes we are very happy. What does it do to our body? And could we, like more stable, more calm, more at ease? Those becomes a lesson for us to learn, to adjust ourselves. The problem, we solve our own problem. So that has become the practice. Okay, so I talk about certain kinds of view today. The view of clinging to your own view and the view of clinging to certain precepts. And today talk about briefly about this affliction. Of course, it's not finished yet, but I will stop here.